This is Madia-as Digdigan Buenaflor, extending an invitation to each and every one of you everywhere, as my way of commemorating the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. I will read and serialize my novel, The Blood of Three, starting on Tuesday, August 27, and continuing episodes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Follow the drama on my YouTube channel. May we forever exhale and inhale love and peace. Thank you, dear God, she whispered as she convulsively sobbed, pressing the locket against her aching flesh, guarding it as one would an only remaining treasure. More than anything else, it was the sketch in the locket that gave her the strength to pull herself out of the ditch. She tried to prop herself up but staggered back. She had nothing left in her except the will to finish a job started. Stirred with the determination to reach home, she crawled, digging her fingers under the muddy soil, grabbing at any object her hand could grasp, pulling, dragging her body inch by inch. Finally, Joybell reached the stairs of their hut, barely conscious. "Daddy," her voice was just above a painful whisper, hollow and drowning. "Daddy." She stretched her arms and gripped the stairs, then pulled herself up, but her weak limbs gave way, and the thud echoed from one step down the next. The novice woke Mr. Miura up and hurriedly he lighted his oil lamp and opened the door. As the light shone on the crumpled body of Joybell, Mr. Miura gasped. Hastily putting down the lamp, he hurdled the stairs in one stride and gathered Joybell's limp body into his arms. My God! His mind panicked as he carried her upstairs. Carefully and ever so gently, he laid Joybell's body on the floor. Unprepared for the impact of the realization of what befell her precious daughter, Mr. Miura's whirled into a limbo. An unforeseen force ripped his heart out, and with it, his breath. His bridge to life, my God, was all he could utter as he stared at the bruised, wet body of her beloved daughter. Her exposed body bludgeoned into a pulp. With the hem of his shirt, he wiped off the blood and prayed that he also wipe off her pain. He pulled together her torn blouse to protect her from all the ugliness that would dare leer at her. Sobbing uncontrollably, he hugged Joybell's shaking body. She was shivering from chill and high fever. He raced to his room, grabbed a blanket, and covered her. Her breathing came in short, hard, and heavy gasps. "Joybell, darling, who did this to you?" His voice quivered. "Tell me, baby, tell me," he begged, waiting for her answer, but nothing came out but a painful mumbling. He listened more closely as Joybell opened her lips with great effort, but the words were incoherent and inaudible. She slowly raised her hand aimlessly, then finally succeeded in holding the locket. She opened her heavy eyes and tried to say something with much difficulty. Mr. Miura listened closely, waiting for any word. "Give locket to," she gasped for air and continued with more effort. "Give to Ernesto." Tears flowed from her blood-veined, fading eyes. Her eyes slowly closed, her lips slightly opened. All became motionless, still. Her grip of the locket was firm, only to finally, almost hesitatingly, loosen, leaving the locket dangling. Mr. Miura gazed at her, now calm face, still waiting, but the weak gasp had stopped. "Joybell, baby, talk to me. Talk to me, my darling. My God, please let my baby live," he pleaded, watching, waiting for any sound, a whisper, a sign of life, a miracle. But there was none. Everything had suddenly turned silent. Reality hit hard. Mr. Miura's tears began to flow unabated. Cuddling her body, he stood slowly as if in a trance, He walked to his rocking chair and sat there, cradling her daughter, his sobs rocking the chair. He kissed her many times, hoping in vain that death would leave them alone. His head sagged down, weighted by the grief that had engulfed him. For several solitary moments, everything stopped except the endless flow of tears falling on Joybel's blonde hair. Time passed with him sitting there on his rocking chair, which was now still. His arms cradled his daughter's lifeless body. The chilling gusty wind from the open window jolted him. He raised his face, the tears have dried, his eyes unblinking. Slowly and still in a state of shock, he stood and carried his daughter's body to her room, placing her carefully in her bed. Almost mechanically, he cleaned her from the mud and blood that had now dried and dressed her with her favorite pink silk dress. Sitting by her bedside, he combed her hair with unsteady hand, allowing this to hang down her shoulders. There was a sense of awe as he touched her face, once vibrant with life and the sweetest smile that would never appear ever again, now devoid of color. He was face to face with a future that promised nothing but emptiness. There would be no more cheerful morning greetings and prayerful good nights. The laughter which had been jingles of merry bells to his ears, not to be heard again. Fond memories flooded in. The morning rituals of preparing her hot bath, which he had done for her for 16 happy years. It was a chore he loved. How will he remember the times Joybel would cuddle close to him and listen to his stories of Japan and its Fujiyama, of the United States and its skyscrapers, of the Philippines and its music, the sentimental flowing condiments, and of the conviviality of its people, and insatiable passion for life. How will he remember the times he sang for her? How could she be so silent and so cold, his words stilled in his throat? How could she be gone, this little angel? How could anyone do this to her? How? The excruciating pain pierced so deep, it was beyond him to extricate it. Dear God, please help me. The plea was so moving in its simplicity. There was no need for more. Mr. Miura's cries waned into inaudible moans. With resolute and determined, almost mechanical function, he raised himself, put out his carpentry tools, pulled into the living room the hand-carved comfort chest which he had made for her daughter. After emptying the chest of all her belongings, he took out and put aside the hand-carved jewelry box where he found the 16 birthday candles, carefully preserved and wrapped in the thin textured banana stalk wrapper. He proceeded to make the most beautiful coffin ever to be created by one grieving mortal for a loved one, sending through the silent chilly dawn the sound of hammer against wood, the sound becoming faster and louder as he assembled and nailed the wood piece by piece, like the scattered broken pieces of their lives. The incessant rapid knocking at the door of his house had become impatient, but Mr. Miura was too engrossed with his work to hear. Loud banging of rifles against the door followed. "Open," ordered the voice outside, but the hammering continued. The door was finally broken down and two Japanese soldiers barged in angrily. "What's the matter?" The soldiers confronted Mr. Miura, who remained unshaken as he continued what he was doing. Hammering, pounding, nailing, hammering. "Stop this noise," one Japanese soldier roared as the other grabbed Mr. Miura by the shoulder. Mr. Miura slowly and calmly looked up at the two Japanese. Their faces were unfamiliar. He never saw them before. The soldiers did not know him. They were new in the town. He looked at them with that passive and cold look, then turned his head very slowly to the direction of Joybel's bedroom. The soldiers followed his gaze with suspicion. What they saw pulled them back. They stood still, at attention. On the bed lay the lifeless body of a young girl, serene and peaceful like an innocent child, immaculate and angelic and pure in death. 16 candles arranged on a small table by the head of her bed illuminated her with the flickering lights dancing over her face. The two Japanese soldiers stood motionless. They bowed their heads in respect and perhaps in prayer. After all, maybe they, too, may have their families, even children. Yes, daughters back home in Japan. Yes, they stood, solemn as if in prayers. Together they withdrew, and as they passed by Mr. Miura, they bowed their heads without any word. They quietly left, slowly replacing back the door behind them. The look in Mr. Miura's eyes deepened with bitterness, and his fist tightly clasped the hammer until they turned white. The hammering resumed, and the sound echoed once more through the quiet of the early dawn as he labored on, hoping somehow, with futile effort, to drown out his inconsolable grief. He was groping through a labyrinth of darkness, sinking deeper into the abyss, dying. That's all for today, to be continued on Tuesdays and Thursdays. May we all forever exhale and inhale love and peace. Thanks for being with me today. I hope you will inspire me with a like, share, and subscribe.